grown and grown.
What's the one that starts above and then sinks below?
That's electronics and appliances. Largely, it's a little misleading because a lot of the electronics and appliances shifted into other buckets. You remember JCPenney's turnaround story 3 years ago was the fact that we're going to sell big ticket items. And so that juiced their comps for a little while. So it's always shifted. But a lot of it shifted. The words to describe in the survey a furnishing experience or a big ticket item largely remain the same. Free shipping, no salespeople, online store, 24/7, 365. So what I like to do when I talk about brands today and the way that they can set themselves up, I look at the past and then try and show an indication of a brand that's doing exactly what they should be doing. Old world, factory spoke to an agent, the agent then sold to a wholesaler, the wholesaler then sold to a retailer, then to a consumer. Over time, we started to get rid of each one of those. So we took these links out. To the point of today, we're going direct to the consumer. Now everyone says, how do you manage something like that? Sometimes, was the content that good? Sometimes you manage it.
That was a wholesaler.
Sometimes you manage it through different ways, but essentially those that are doing it well, they're running traditional ways through retailers because that usually pays the bills, and then they're now branching off into their own brand stores and sites, but the ones that are doing it most effectively now are the ones that are doing it in marketplaces. So they're selling on marketplaces like Amazon. This is a brand, I'm not going to go through the video, essentially it's custom-made furniture. They have their own brand, their own sites under one brand, which is their key brand, and then they have an offshoot brand where they're selling on marketplaces, retailer stores, Amazon, Wayfair, Y Living, Design Public, yada, 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 yada. That's the way that brand management needs to happen today. Examples of those that are doing a good job. In the dynamic pricing realm, I think it's a great job of execution, terribly in terms of aesthetics, but Kohl's can push a price change from Menominee Falls, Wisconsin, at the push of a button across all their stores, or by region, or by particular store. It's impressive. Amazon, the one cool thing I think that they did in the bookstores, other than turn the books around so they're facing you, is they brought those lovely customer reviews front and center. Conviction, conviction, conviction.
Where do they have a store? They have one in Seattle, if that's it?
Nope. They have,
New York.
12 now?
Okay.
There's one in Columbus,
Peter's one in New York.
there's one in Columbus Circle, there's one in Herald Square.
Sure.
There's one. Walmart, remember how I said we don't like talking to people? Here's Walmart. They have a sign in the store saying, text us if you don't want to talk to us or you can't find us. Remember, as that business shifts out of store to online, the number one cost to a store is labor. So we pull back on labor. West Elm, crowdsourced curation. So they took everything that was loved on Pinterest and pushed it into stores. Conviction, strangers. This is AR. So the big boys are doing it. The one that's not here is Amazon. They released it last week. IKEA, Target, House, Wayfair, and Cherish all provide you the ability to take a product on your mobile phone and put it in your home or your environment. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And it's moved faster than I actually thought it would. There's a startup that I am on the advisory board for, and basically they do image search. So you take a picture of something, and then it serves up both either through machine learning or through an actual human. Other options. Hay Needle's owned by Walmart, so they're building that into their app right now.
So you can go in someone's house and say, I like that couch, and we'll find you a couch like it?
That, or since I love that chair out there, because I talked about it before, I could take a quick picture and you could find it for me. Believe it or not, that company, this is really interesting. This is really interesting. They initially started by serving up recommendations from humans in Nova Scotia. So literally, there were people sitting there waiting for a picture. The picture would come in big. Try and find it. They check like Google, then they check Walmart, and they check Target. Crazy. And now it's all machine learning based. IKEA did something amazing. So I haven't bought IKEA since I was in college, but do you remember these terrible directions?
Yes.
Yes.
They bought a company called TaskRabbit. TaskRabbit uses those 1099 contractors to build stuff or do anything you want. So now when you buy something from IKEA, when they roll it out, you'll be able to buy a contractor along with it to help set it up, so you don't have to deal with the billing.
Your own
Top
private.
rate.
So they go crazy and you don't.
I took a few pictures, and this is terrible, you can't see it, but basically what I'm saying is give more options to any customer. Nordstrom gets the option to add to wish list, they save the letter, add to your bridal registry, yada, 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 it's amazing. Certain retailers have served up their inventory to Google, so that when you're on the street, when I was searching for these shoes, I would have quickly known that within 0.2 miles, they have these particular shoes. So this is Nike Flyknit size 11, it's telling me a finish line is 0.2 miles away. Automated pickup, believe it or not, Sears actually was kind of smart visual. They did a couple of very good things. One of the things that they did very, very well was the whole curbside pickup. That was an option here. And then last but not least, Amazon. They provide the same day, next day, 2-day, or credits if you don't want to take it right away. I talked to a lot of brands who are scared of mobile. My point to them is, it's crazy to be scared, because another one of the startups that I work with, this is their platform of someone building that previous app we just saw. It's like really easy. So like get over it. Everyone's just so intimidated, they don't do it. And so I think understanding the basics of everything that I talked about in the previous slides can quickly be done with something as simple as this. So don't be scared. 4 minutes over. I just want to remind everyone what I know I talked about Amazon to some degree, however, there's really 3 things that I think, it's not just about Amazon, it's the fact that all the customers have largely stayed the same in terms of what they're looking for. And as long as you focus on that, whether it's part of your Amazon delivery, whether it's part of your mobile delivery, I think you're going to be okay. You've got to keep it simple, keep it pragmatic, but realize tech is at the center of every experience for any retailer today, every purchase. And lastly, just don't fight convenience. It's the one thing they're all looking for. It's the one thing that's consistent in everything that we talked about today. Don't fight convenience. Don't be afraid. Just do it. Keep it simple. That's it.
Cost of food for you?
No, that's okay. I'll get something on the way when I return my clothes.
Quick question, where you live, has Whole Foods got Amazon Prime lockers enough where you can, you order, you go, and you don't shop, you just pick it up?
Yeah, it's,
They've done that here.
yeah, so, I mean, they have it at the 7-Eleven, it's across the street from mine. The one thing that they're moving towards now is going to the big condominiums and the apartment companies. Because I don't know, if, for those of you that live in New York, you know, like if you're in a high rise, you walk in, it's a shit show. There's just boxes everywhere, and they need some way to manage it.
Yeah, cool.
But they have to pay rent for it, because the buildings aren't gonna give it away, space away for free.
Right. And I think what's also amazing about what they did, and I have a lot more on the logistics of Amazon, I'm happy to share with all of you. They went to the USPS and they said, start doing Sunday delivery. It's crazy. You see on the streets, 95% of the boxes are Amazon, and then there's like 2 Jets that are purple, and then maybe like a couple Walmarts, and then like a Chewy.
Which
Now, that's
USPS
smart.
only delivers Amazon.
Is this, we know the post office has issues with, you know, overtime and other things like that, but is it impacting UPS profits? Because now I see the driver, you used to only see this at Christmas time, but now in the middle of the fall, I see them at 7 o'clock at night on brown trucks, you know, delivering. So they obviously have so much volume, they can't get through it all during the regular day hours. That must be costing overtime.
So, direct mail gentleman, I didn't catch your name.
Yeah.
I'm sure he knows a hell of a lot more than I do about this. However, I think that, and I'll give my opinion, the majority of e-commerce, the final mile delivery is now done by the USPS.
Yeah.
And, the bulk of it comes up to the USPS and then they need to get it delivered. I somewhat laugh when I hear people say USPS is gonna go bankrupt or we're gonna close it down. It's a human right for everyone to receive mail. So I don't have any, I'm not worried about them. I am worried about cost increases because, e-com's gotta be paid for some way. I think if USPS stopped delivering, I think FedEx and UPS would be in a world of hurt. I also think the whole scare about Amazon potentially taking over UPS and FedEx, I think it's kind of BS because I think there's largely going to be enough volume for all of them.
And he doesn't want the Teamsters to have to deal with. I mean, who does?
He doesn't like dirty business. He really doesn't.
And don't forget UPS and FedEx get to lobby Postal Rate Commission to set the rates for the Postal Service.
Right. And then we cast like UPS and FedEx like they can't do anything wrong. But they raise the rate 67% every year.
Postal Service still makes
Where is the choke-off point in the metropolitan area? Because everybody basically says, okay, I stay home, I watch television, you shift the burden of delivery to, that's somebody else's problem. But where is the choke-off point here in Manhattan? It's ridiculous, the carbon footprint and,
Yeah.
anyway, is there any thought about that?
I'm not smart enough to answer that question, but the color I would give is, I think what's interesting is, I don't know if you saw this past week, but Amazon Fresh killed off a couple of markets where they didn't have the density. If you remember Pets.com, Peapod was very close to bankruptcy as well, so I think they eventually figured out the level of density they need to do it profitably. However, I'm going to take an example of me personally. I buy bottled water from Costco via Google Express. It's $2.99 for it. And then, as long as I spend $25, it comes to me for free. I live on 42nd Street on the west side. We know it's up in the Bronx that they're pulling it from. There's no way that's profitable, right? So you've got to have that density. What the choke-off point is, I don't know, man, because Blasio already said no to the premium charge for Manhattan, but it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse.
Uber Eats.
Uber Eats, I mean, caviar, like sometimes we only choose caviar because we know they're on bikes.
Yeah.
Whereas Uber Eats is sometimes in cars, and you're like, it's crazy.
It's, faster on a bike.
Is there a quite comprehensive article in Bloomberg today on the retail?
I saw
Did you
that.
see that?
Well, I saved it for tonight because I wanted to be paying attention to it, but yeah. It looks really good though, I saw a lot of red.
Well, and then 6,700 stores, retailers went out of business this year, 2,800 in business.
Oh, you mean in Manhattan real estate? Or?
No, this is United States, but
So,
it's just how much more damage will happen to the retail space?
So I actually, this is probably a bad way of saying it, but, this is a really bad way of saying it.
Retail chain.
It's okay.
9/11 for the airlines gave them an excuse to essentially write off a bunch of debt, go bankrupt, reduce salaries, labor, payroll.
That's a main feature of this article. Is
Is
the
it?
They're having
private
a lot
equity
of
has bloated a lot of
Got it.
just with debt.
So I think that retail has yet to have its 9/11. And I think, unfortunately, we're going to go through, I call it a grooming period for several decades. I think it's going to be a long, hard battle. I think what's interesting is, like my former boss, Richard Baker, selling Lord & Taylor, going from 650 square feet of sellable square footage to 175. Like that is interesting. I'm glad to see it starting. There's so much real estate. And, I shot him a text and I shot him a quick text and I was like, I'm glad you did this quick. He didn't reply because I know because it's, as a public company, because I think, if there's more to come, and it's gonna be a long, hard drag.
Ryan, do you see shopping centers closing?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
How could they not? I mean, there's, in some places, like places without any zoning, like around Orlando, you'd have the same chain stores
Yeah.
every, like 15 blocks on the main boulevard.
Yeah.
There's no way that people need that many. I mean, I don't even know how the drug chains can have so many outlets. And is that sustainable?
Well, I mean, luckily, that's a category, I would go back to the slide, but that's a category that's been growing. We've been on this health kick for a while. Well, yeah. Ooh, I didn't want to broach that subject.
So Ryan, you talked about convenience being
Can I just hit
very
his
important.
one thing real
Sure.
quick? The fascinating thing to follow, Eddie Lampert, what he did with Sears. So he took all those leases and he put them into a group called Seritage Growth Properties. Follow what they do. What they basically do is they take that real estate space, they move it into this REIT, and then the REIT transforms it and ups the lease rates. When they stop finding places that they can up, then I think we'll get some bigger problems. Because they are the biggest experiment in retail right now, and it's like the most fascinating thing in the world to me. Literally, I'll wake up on Saturday morning and just look at it.
What's the name of that company? You said Lampert.
I may be mispronouncing it, but it's Seritag.
And is it different from any other REITs like Equity One, which seems to buy all the suburban strip malls, or?
I think, yes, I think that there's I could give you a whole list, I got a bunch of trackers, symbols that I track. The other one that's really interesting is Simon's trying to buy out their major. So they've got Westfield malls, and they've got all those malls. I think there's just gonna be a reduction.
What were they gonna do with the space if they buying up all the
I mean, they're talking about stuff, you see
bowling
it,
alley?
like putting, I mean, in Canada, believe it or not, you got post offices in malls and stuff like that. So they're trying to move more to services, they're putting in gyms and things like that. I still think that there's not enough. There's still not enough. They're gonna have to close.
Right, New York Times had a good article on that Sunday, featuring 2 malls in Columbus, Ohio that were struggling. One was closing and they're retasking things like you said, athletic facilities, restaurants. So that's kind of one involving process. Wanted to ask you, Election Day was yesterday. We know that. Sorry.
You're still.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
That's all right.
No, go ahead.
You talk about density on favoring urban areas.
Right.
And we have this great cultural divide now between rural America and urban America. If Amazon and the like are going to mostly serve urban America, how's the rest of the country going to feel?
It's a very good question. I think,
drones?
yeah, I mean, the drones thing is very interesting. Actually, follow JD.com, which is a competitor to Alibaba in China. They're actually further ahead than Amazon. I just think it's about marketing, and eventually they're going to get there, believe it or not. The perception is that Amazon largely is still more expensive. But if you look at what they're doing now, so I third-party sell, they can take a markdown on a product that I'm selling direct on my behalf now. So they're going to get more aggressive in pricing. As they get into the non-want products, the more need, more into grocery, I think they're going to start to pick up more of rural America. It's only a matter of time, in my belief.
Also, there's an argument for either way on that. It's cheaper to operate in rural areas. The distances may be shorter between consumers in New York City, but the trucks get tickets. The cost of operating is so high.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of ag workers with pickup trucks will gladly take on the last mile.
There was a South Park about that.
Yeah, very, very fair point. They traditionally haven't focused on those groups either. They've been just like the jet mindset.
Well,
The
that-
metros,
yeah.
and now they got the more B2B work. They've expanded more into the commoditized business, and then they've expanded into the more agriculture type business just recently in the last 6 months.
One thing, and you talked about the convenience factor that's important for the consumer on the one hand.
Yeah.
And then you have the fact that you comment about the cost of delivery is actually incorporated into the price of the product. I saw a survey recently that if you took 20, 25 items and you purchased them from Costco versus Amazon,
Yeah.
I think the perception of many people is that the Amazon cost would be lower. But the survey said that the Costco cost was about 20% lower than Amazon. And so what I'm wondering is, where is the intersection ultimately going to be?
Yeah.
How, today the consumer will order, toothpaste, one order for a Prime member today, and then tomorrow they'll order, a can of soup or whatever it is. And so the inefficiencies built in will drive up the price
Right.
vis-a-vis, a big box model.
Right.
So it seems to me the big boxes will survive, but they've got to have, an enhanced electronic mobile aspect to it, similar to what I guess Costco is doing with Google.
So, you just asked like 55 questions. So you're ready to cut off? No. Let's talk about Costco. Costco, up until about a month ago, I talk to buyers all the time. We sell millions of dollars to Costco in Canada and the US and Australia, Korea, etc. They did not care about e-commerce at all. They didn't care about delivery. They were posting a portion of their catalog onto e-commerce and then adding the actual shipping in. They then announced something with Instacart, then they announced something with Google Express, and now they are doing delivery, and they say that they're going to have pricing parity across all channels. What I think, regardless of whether the customer believes that Amazon is cheaper or more expensive, I think the stickiness factor to Amazon with all those eyes, 55% going to those eyes going directly to Amazon, the fact that they realize they can just quickly press go, the fact that it's on their home screen, that convenience is a premium that they're willing to overlook. With that said, I think that Costco still has the ability to, Costco, Walmart, Target, any guy that's playing big in grocery, to come up with a model that works. Prime Pantry from Amazon does not work. Amazon Fresh does not work. It works for us New York City residents, but for the large percentage of people that are shopping grocery, it doesn't work. I think the big boxes will stay. I just think that I will continue to sell to big boxes in a negative sales environment.
Right, isn't it a social phenomenon that we go to big boxes to shop, Costco, to Walmart, what have you, with a grocery list or a large shopping list, so that our habits are, if we got a large shopping list, we're gonna go into the store,
Yeah.
but if we're picking onesies or twosies, then it's easier for us to buy it online. Isn't that the case that's happening?
I mean, it is. It is, but I think a lot of that's changing, you know?
really see someone gonna
Things-
order
things
a
like-
whole shopping cart worth of stuff and have it delivered to their home?
I mean, I have been for a year, maybe 2 years. I mean, I may be I'm obviously not the norm because I'm so focused on this and I like trying all the things, but I think it's changing. I really think it's changing. And when you start to experience something where you're on Subscribe and Save with monthly deliveries, you just don't have to, I don't have to take an Uber up to Costco in the Bronx and do my shopping and fight the crowds. It sucks. It's there every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock.
There's one in East Harlem.
East Harlem, you have the big parking garage.
Right, like that, it sucks.
Right,
I don't know. I know that didn't answer your question, but I think, yes, the traditional shopper will remain, but I think a large portion will start to shift eventually, once they figure out the right model.
I'm just curious what you think is the biggest hurdle for Amazon. It seems like it's unstoppable.
Yeah, good question. I think regulatory issues may pop up eventually. Whether it's the current administration or the previous administration, I don't really know. But I think that there's going to be some sort of regulatory issue.
Now, what was the regulatory issue about what? What was the question?
The biggest hurdle.
The biggest hurdle. I think there's that.
About Shipping, or what would the regulatory issues be about?
Oh, the fact that they are just destroyed.
Oh, okay, just, so you mean just.
I'm actually really stoked that Walmart's trying really hard. I'm stoked about that.
Yeah.
One. Two, I'm really excited that Apple may be the first trillion-dollar company, because if Amazon was, we'd be screwed. They would definitely go after Amazon big and hard.
Europe's gonna go after her
Yeah.
anyway.
The only other hurdle I can foresee is if North America starts to slow and international doesn't keep popping. If that happens, then you've got stock that goes down and the euphoria goes away.
Brian?
I don't know. Are you in the stock?
No, I mean, for me, it's mostly, I mean, you said Apple, which is leading the way, which is fun, but I think Amazon, the fact that it's in everything right now, so where you're talking about hardware, retail, tech, and they're spilling over into
Right.
advertising and monetizing their data, it's like they're everywhere.
It's just Apple is, I think it's like 8% of this morning, 8% more
I
than
think
their
they're letting them
trillion.
catch up and hit trillions so that we can
Right.
avoid the sites of Amazon.
Right.
We'll see.
I went way over, huh?
No, I was gonna say it's 2 o'clock, so I wanted to give everybody the opportunity.
Before anyone else leaves, please look at your email boxes. If you haven't paid the bill, or if I billed you the wrong amount and you dispute it, let me know. But I do want to get our books in order.
And Ryan, I love this presentation today. I just wanted to.
Maybe over to your lunch. We'll make sure one of us.
I'll send the link so you guys can download. It's like 500 megs, so you have to put the link in the middle.
Lunch is on me, I'm a block away.
You put it in the Dropbox or something like that?
Yeah. So it'll be in the box.
Awesome.
Thank you for the use. Where's Gary? Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.